a prominent member of the Jewish community in London, to come along and say a few words on the Passover. Passover is the event when Moses took his entire community of Israelites from Egypt under the subjugation of pharaohs and took them right across Sinai after suffering all the suffering of passing through the desert and ultimately passing through the waterways and going to Israel and settling down there. So this is that event which is celebrated around about this time. So Edwin Shuker will be talking to you on that Passover.
He's going to give us an issue.
Right. Edwin, are we going to join him?
Yeah.
He's my brother. When I thought of this day today, the first person who said, support to everything what I said, he said, I'm Rahim, I'm going to work with you. He's the Shalom. May God bless him.
I want to read a small section from the Torah to start with. This is God speaking through Moses. And he says, "For this commandment I command you today is not hidden from you, and is not distant. It is not in heaven for you to say, who can ascend to heaven for us and take it for us, so that we can listen to it and perform it. Nor is it across the sea for you to say, who can cross the other side of the sea for us and take it for us, so that we can listen to it and perform it. Rather, the matter is very near to you, in your mouth and in your heart, to perform it. See, I have placed before you today the life and the good, and the death and the evil. That which I command you today, to love your God, to walk in his ways, to observe his commandments, his decrees. Then you will live and you will multiply, and God will bless you. I couldn't think of anything better to start this. You might, those of you who know the Passover holiday, we are right in the middle of it. And within 1 hour, I have to be home with my children and observe the same sanctions as we have on the Sabbath, on the seventh day. Which means, within 1 hour, I will not be able to take a mobile phone, switch on electricity. I will not be able to watch television, to answer phones, to write, to work on the internet, and to do anything else. But this is the things that I cannot do. I want to tell you the things that I can do. What I can do is to be with my family, to be with my children, to switch off all the outside world from me, to leave the credit crunch and the banking crisis outside the home, outside that minute, to leave the politics and to leave the intrigue beyond it, and to sit around the table and look at the beautiful faces of my children and my family and our guests, and enjoy the blessing of God, my God, your God, the creator of this universe. When I was invited to the committee meeting to participate today, and I looked at the calendar, I actually came over to say, I'm really sorry, because I cannot be with you. I have to be in the synagogue by now.
Yes.
But when Dr. Rahim Khan started to talk about his vision and what he wants to do, and when I saw my sister Margaret and Robin, which I have been working with them for many years, and Mr. David Sasson here, who brought me to this place, I heard more than words from Dr. Khan. Those of us who were around that table heard inspiration.
Yes.
And I want to tell you, it's not even his inspiration. he was opening his mouth and something that right deep from the source of creation was coming out of his mouth. And I said, you know what? For me, I'm missing out on the synagogue today, this hour. But I am here as a spiritual act to be with like-minded people. And I see in your eyes, and I feel it in my body, and I feel it in my spirit, that I'm enriched, and I hope that I will enrich you too.
It's his speech now.
I will say a few words.
He will take his speech now.
Yes. Because he was very strict with the time, Dr. Khan, I will cut a lot of my recordings and everything like that. And I will actually, within the time limit, I will want to share to you what is it that we are celebrating here in Passover. Passover is, I would say, the most important event in the Jewish calendar. Passover is a time we became a nation under God. We, at the time, the story says, the children of Israel had been slaves in Egypt, 210 years. God promised he would release them from slavery, but not before Pharaoh refused the release. And God then visited 10 plagues on the Pharaoh until he allowed them to go. Before that, for 210 years, they were not a nation. They were the descendant of Jacob and his children. Jacob is the grandson of Abraham, the father of monotheism. But much more than that, what this Chag, what this festival represents, is hope. Because these slaves were there, worked to destruction, with no food, and the Pharaoh then decided, I want to finish with this people. From now on, every male child that is born has to be killed. The female can survive, and the male has to be killed. The same as Hitler and many other people throughout history try to do, the final solution. And it was through a huge cry from those slaves that God heard them and God remembered his promise. Now, why is that important? Because I want to tell you, not only for Jews, but for throughout history, those who know the story are inspired by it. It's a story that there is a God who listens, that there is a God who cares. There's a God that is ready to interfere in your own private affairs and overrule the Pharaoh and the despot wherever they exist and whenever they exist. And I want to tell you my own story. We were persecuted because of our religion in my youth. And we reached a stage where life and death became almost the same. And we lived from year to year, not knowing whether we're going to survive it. Many of my relatives were killed. And I want to tell you that the most inspiring night that we had was the Pesach night, the Seder night. The night we celebrate the Passover story. Because unlike